We'll have to lop off the front part. Okay. Hello, my name is David Jost. I am Chief Marketing Officer for Arreva, and I just want to let you know that if you have joined us early, we will be starting in just about 10 minutes. I'll be giving a 2-minute warning, if you will, as we get closer. May jump in 1 or 2 other times just because we have this is a record level number of people showing up today. So lots of people coming in. This session will be recorded. So for any reason you're having trouble with audio or anything of that nature that sometimes happens in the world of Zoom and technology, just first off, drop a note in the chat box. We do have our marketing team here to try and help you however they can. But rest assured that you could take notes if you wish you don't need to. We're going to be recording everything and sending that out to you afterwards. So just sit back and enjoy. We'll be starting shortly. If you've joined already, I guess that's who I'm talking to. But for those of you who have joined already, drop a note in the chat box. Let us know you're here, and that way we'll be able to see everything's functioning correctly. Let us know where you're from, and just say hello. Thank you. For those of you who are waiting for us to begin, we'll be starting shortly. You're going to be able to see a little bit of the pre-show here. I just want to do a quick sound check again, Diana, if I could, to make sure it's coming through okay, because I made some adjustments.
Okay, Diana Hoyt, Formula for Fundraising.
Terrific. Thank you. Nice plug.
Thank you.
Yeah. Hello, everyone. My name is David Jost. I'm Chief Marketing Officer with Arreva. I'm joined here today by Diana Hoyt, who is author and fundraising expert and our featured host today. You are here for Thank You Is Not Enough, the keys to donor stewardship for fundraising success. We'll be starting in just about 2 minutes. If that's not why you joined us, I encourage you to stay. It's going to be a wonderful session today. We have a significant number of people joining us. It is an absolutely full house today, virtually speaking. So just go ahead and let us know if you are having any trouble hearing us clearly, seeing anything, but have no fear. Regardless, everyone here will be sent a full recording and copy of the slides afterwards. So again, this is Thank You Is Not Enough, the keys to donor stewardship for fundraising success. We'll be starting in just about a minute or two. And if you have joined us, I would love to hear from you and have you just drop a note in the chat box or in questions. If you have any questions about things you would love to hear today, just so we're aware of it. This is a very interactive session, and we'll be mapping how we sort of unfold things today based on some feedback from you as well. So thank you, and we'll be starting in just a moment. I am hearing from a number of you that the chat box is disabled, and some boxes checked that shouldn't be, that'll be fixed shortly. You will be able to answer in the questions, so we're working on it. And as you can see from the question box, our team is on it, so it should be just momentary. But feel free to drop any questions into the question box and let us know if you have things that you just are sort of on your mind when it comes to donor stewardship. I'm betting that all, if not most of your questions will be answered already, but we just want to make sure, because you never know. There's always something someone's wondering. And if you're wondering it, someone else is likely wondering about that as well. So I am going to give you just about a 30-second heads up here. We're going to be starting shortly. And at that point, I will just be starting with a cold introduction of the entire topic, so we have a good recording from you. So in just about 30 seconds, you'll hear me joining you again. Okay, and Diana, I'm just going to check that you see my screen because I just shared host with someone so they could make some
Okay.
setting changes. Okay, you can see me. All right.
Yep.
All right, terrific, folks. Thank you so much. So I am going to go ahead and start in 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Welcome. We're glad to have you here today for a very special workshop with Diana Hoyt, author and fundraising expert, entitled "Thank You Is Not Enough." This is presented to you by Arreva, Tech with Purpose Driven by Cause. We have a really good session today, so I'm just going to go ahead and get us started and let you know just briefly that you are now seeing an introduction, or excuse me, an agenda slide that just shares with you a little bit about what we're doing. We're going to be doing some formal introductions. There's more to come here. And we're going to be hearing from you. You're going to get a chance to flex those interactive participation muscles, and we are going to unfold a very powerful session about all of these topics that we've shared with you, right? It's very catchy. Thank you is not enough. Really should be thank you, ... there's more. Okay, so thank you is still important. We're going to share that with you. We're going to unfold all of the keys here, and we're going to have some chance for you to ask some questions. A couple of quick housekeeping things just to let you know is that you do have the opportunity to put questions in the question box, and I can see that you now have the ability to also go ahead and join the chat. Let us know where you're from. Let us know your organization. Make a plug if you want. Just put anything you want in the chat box, and then also let us know what you're looking forward to hearing today. So with that, I'm going to go ahead and get started, and really this is what it's all about. We are so pleased to be joined today by our special host and dear friend of Arreva. We've been working with her on, some of you have been on our previous workshops. Her name is Diana Hoyt. She is fundraising expert, consultant, trainer, person extraordinaire, I'll just add that, and author of Securing Fundraising Success, as well as, and I got to get the title, I can picture, Embrace Your Donors for Greater Success, Greater Fundraising Success. We'll talk more about that, but I'm going to turn it over to Diana to give a little bit of a hello and a background. I'm David Jost. I'm in the little corner down there. I am moderating this. I also serve as Chief Marketing Officer for Arreva, and I'm going to be interacting with Diana. But Diana, say hello to everyone, and let's get the party started.
Hello, it is wonderful to be here. As some of you know, I'm in Phoenix, Arizona. It is only going to be 104 today, which is kind of average for us right now. And it's a joy for me to do this workshop. And I hope that all of you walk away with some new ideas and thoughts.
Wonderful. We're glad to have you here. Again, I'm just going to remind everyone as we go to the next slide that this is interactive. So what that means is, number one, I cannot believe the number of great organizations and the wonderful things I'm hearing, and the diversity of causes, Diana, that we're seeing here in terms of people coming on, Indigenous Peoples Task Force in Minneapolis, KFC Foundation, people coming from local voter engagement organizations, Georgia Stand Up. There's so many. And I can't share them all. If I find an opportunity, I always love to plug a good cause here in the industry, but I'm going to tell you that share your questions, share your insights. If you see something, I love and another things. Because if you have something to say, hey, by the way, here's something we did, it's going to benefit everyone, and you will get what you share, you'll receive as well. So we're going to begin beyond just the chat box and the question box with an actually just sharing with you a poll. So I'm going to be putting up a poll here in just a moment. I just have to grab it, and you will see this come up, and it is literally going to give you the okay, I gotta find it here. I may need you to pull up the poll team, if you will, since I've moved the host for just a moment. But if you could pull up the poll that we have and just display that on donors, basically what percent of your donors would say they were thanked for their donation. And on this, we have a list of what percent are there, and it gives options. Here we go. Okay, I found it. If it isn't up, are you guys seeing it? Let us know in the chat box, and I'm going to give you a few moments to ask. Do your donors feel thanked? There it is. Perfect. All right, thank you. The wonders of Zoom. So we've got a bunch of percents here. It runs from do you think it's 90%? Do you think it's 65%? Do you think it's 45%, 10%? Or you know what? let us know, be honest. If you don't even want to guess, because either it's frightening to you or you just don't want to put yourself out there, let us know. Or if you don't have an idea. And then if I could just have our team just go ahead and once you've reached a pretty good number, and I'm going to invite everyone to participate, we like to get as many people as possible to contribute to this. And then we will close it and share the results. So those will come up momentarily. Okay, so there we are. Diana, you should be seeing these as well.
I do.
I'm going to let you comment on that because I think there's a number that is not what people think here. That's actually what people typically will say.
If I'm commenting, then 90% shocks me based upon my own personal experience. And I think, well, it can allow for some interesting discussion. Yeah.
No, absolutely. I'm going to tell you right now, and it's always different. So there's an operative word in this question. Do your donors feel thanked? Okay, so it doesn't mean did you thank them? Did you do what you think it was that needed to be done to thank them? Did they feel it? Did they remember it? It's like sort of remembering a commercial that you saw, right? The number that's often cited is that 45% of donors will say, and actually it's reverse. So it's somewhere in between. Only 55% will say they were thanked. 45% will say they don't believe they were thanked or they were never thanked. That's astounding. If you can improve that number, and it doesn't mean you're not doing it, right? We're all here together and saying, well, I'm already doing these things. Why is that not getting through? And the answer is kind of in the title of today's session. Thank you is not enough. Okay, so one thank you may not be enough, or one way of doing it. So I'm going to go ahead and ask we just go ahead and close. I'll go ahead and close this poll. Okay, so now I've got control back of the screen, and I'm going to move forward to today's presentation and let Diana just lead us through this.
Okay, wonderful. Thank you. When I started in fundraising, and I have to be real honest, I started in fundraising about 40 years ago, which I find very difficult to believe. And I was not a kid when I started. But then it was all about the gift. When somebody said the word stewardship, it was about stewarding the money. It was making sure that the money was spent wisely and that the money was used according to the donor's wishes. And about 20 plus years ago, we saw a shift. And believe it or not, it was not that many years ago. And it moved from just the money to also being about the donors. It didn't mean we still weren't responsible for the money. We had to be accountable, do it correctly. But it became also more so about the donors. And that's when you started seeing terms like donor-centered fundraising.
Yeah.
So we expanded the concept of building that relationship with the donor. So there was a definite shift. And people who've been in the industry a long time would be aware of that.
It's interesting, Diana. I mean, I think this is somewhat analogous to the shift that happened in, across business as a whole, moving from just a product-centered focus to a customer-obsessed or customer-centric kind of focus to things, right? So, it's different, but it's interesting to see how this transformation continues to hold. So there's a question, I didn't see it raised, but there may be people saying, what is stewardship? Or just say, what exactly is stewardship?
It's an interesting term, but it's what the nonprofit organization does to, with, and for a donor. And you need to also add, and their money after they make a gift. Because what you want to do is on a regular basis, if you're doing stewardship or a stewardship program, is you want to show that you care about your donors. You want to respect their support. You want to appreciate their gifts, and you want to begin to engage them in your organization. So the key is all about communication. That's really what it's all about when we talk about stewardship. And it's not about quantity. I have an organization that I made a donation to back in 2020. that sends me, I swear, stuff every few weeks. Actually, it's probably more often than that. And they don't seem to understand that I'm not responding. And so it's because they're just sending me stuff. There's been no communication. So it's really important that when you talk about communication, you don't want it to look like this bunch of little ducklings. You want to get those ducks in a row.
And that kind of segues nicely to the next piece. What does it take to get your ducks in a row, Diana?
I know. Aren't those
Yeah.
cute little ducklings? Love that picture. There are some essential documents that every organization needs to have in place. The first two are gift acceptance policy. What kind of gifts do you accept, under what circumstances? And I'm not going to go into that today, but it's something everyone needs to have. And by the way, it should be approved by your board of directors and updated frequently. And the reason for that is, how many of you accepted cryptocurrency 10 years ago? Nobody. We already even heard of it. And so if you are accepting cryptocurrency, how are you doing it? And what are you doing? And what are your rules? So that all needs to be into that. So that's a piece you need to deal with. The donor recognition policy, I'm going to get into that deeper, because that I've got a whole bunch of thoughts about it. So we're going to hold that off. It'll come up in the next screen, I believe.
Yes.
Acknowledgement letters. Everyone should have a bevy of acknowledgement letters. The one for tributes, the one for events, the one for in kind, the one for general donations, the one for Giving Tuesday, and they all need to be in such a manner that obviously you need to automate some of this, but you also have to be flexible where you can make that special note. And a quick comment about current IRS guidelines. It really behooves every executive director and every director of development to, upon occasion, go into the irs.gov website and take a look at the guidelines for acceptance of gifts. I was just at a conference last week, and I thought, I can't believe somebody is still saying this after this many years. The IRS has a guideline that says, if a donor gives $250 or more, you must send them a receipt. It doesn't say anything about thank you. And yet people say, well, I don't have to send a thank you if they don't give $250 or more. It doesn't say that. So please understand what those guidelines say. Okay.
Well, it's sure. I mean, you want to get, if someone gives you a candy store or someone gives you a piece of candy, you want to say thank you regardless.
That's what we teach our kids.
Hopefully they listen, right?
You're right.
All right. So you mentioned expanding on the donor recognition policy, and I'm just going to tell you, I'm going to plant this out there. People are sharing what they'd like to hear about. I just want to take a moment so everyone feels nice and relaxed. There will be a recording of the session. There will be copies of all the slides. There's a lot of great stuff here. So if you're not a note taker, don't worry about it. Just sit back, enjoy, participate. We'll be sending that recording out to everyone. Secondly, if you do have something specific you'd like us to touch on, we'll try to work it in. And someone did put out there that there was a question regarding, I'm new to the organization. What are some good ways to keep donor stewardship alive other than email, phone calls? So just keep that in mind, Diana, as we're going through things, okay? And one other person said, I have a question regarding recent MasterCard announcement about recurring giving. And so I would just, if you could expand on the topic here, so it's sitting here because we have lots of people on here, I'll make sure that we've got that addressed as well. So,
Okay.
Thank you.
All right.
Continue.
Okay. Yeah, because in fact, I have a copy of that article about the MasterCard rules, because it does affect. I mean, I'm a subscriber to an organization, and so it's not going to impact me so much, but it is the organization. But let's get to a donor recognition policy and why you need one. First of all, it helps cultivate relationships with existing donors and encouraging them to reach higher levels of giving. It has a very positive effect. And some people say, well, I think it's negative, but I'm going to tell you why I think it's positive when we actually look at one. It helps attract new donors because they see that you have a plan. There are donors who say, well, if I give $50, what are my benefits? What is my return on investment? And so a good donor recognition policy can help with that. And I think one of the most important things is that it's fair. I'm going to give an example of when it wasn't fair. And I'm going to pick on a person close to me, my daughter. She was doing an event for her organization, and she was responsible for sponsorships, and she had to bring in a lot of money. And what happened is that although there was a definition of sponsorships, it was kind of loosey-goosey. And she called me when this whole thing was over with and said, Mom, that was horrible. That was horrible. What did I do wrong? And she explained the whole situation. And I said, well, you weren't fair. Because when one donor found out for the same amount of money that somebody else was getting something else on top of it, they were upset. So you ended up having to give out a lot more than you had planned on. And people weren't happy. Now you had to do a lot to smooth out everyone whose feathers were a little ruffled up. But I said, you have to have a written policy, and no matter what, you have to stick to it, because donors want to be treated fairly, period. And that's why you have this policy. To me, it's the number one reason.
So we had a question, someone just, saying they want all donors to be treated the same, no favorites. So their boss is saying, don't do donor recognition at all. What would you say to that, Diana?
Well, could we roll to that next screen? Because I would be happy to get into that.
There we go. Perfect.
This is pretty much a typical donor recognition layout, easy to do. Okay. You don't have to have the names, friends, guardians, bronze, and silver. You can if you are doing donor giving circles or just want that for donor recognition policies. But the dollar amounts and how you acknowledge those. And I can understand that. I was at this conference I was at last week. A lady really got into the equity of having donor recognition. And she really felt that everyone should be treated the same. Everyone. So whether you gave $5 or you gave 50,000, didn't make any difference. Okay. And that sounds great in theory. But I don't think either your $5 donor or even your $50,000 donor would agree with it. But I think there are things you can do. Is that because I don't think I personally am ready to turn this whole thing upside down. But I think you have to have it clearly defined, and you have to actually do it.
Yeah.
Okay. That's one of the problems, is a lot of people say, oh, well, we have a donor recognition policy, but you don't follow it. So who cares, right? And so I think that is really important. I think that you also need to look at other types of gifts. So perhaps you need to have more in this top section about first-time donors.
Mm-hmm.
That we know, based upon the fundraising effectiveness survey and other surveys that have been done, including the Lilly School of Philanthropy, that first-time donors are a major issue at your organizations. We know statistically, and the number has dropped. It's down to about 1 in 5 donors. Only 20% of your first-time donors will give a second gift.
Yeah.
And it was just a couple of years ago at 25%. So it's dropped. And there are reasons for it. A lot of it has to do with, what do you do with a first-time donor? Do you really do the things you say you're going to do? Do you send out that signed letter? And although in the next section, I do have the board member phone call. I think it's so important that we get more serious about these phone calls and talking to people. So you need to look at the first-time donors. You need to also, and you may need a separate donor recognition chart for multi-year donors, for longevity. You know, I actually saw a letter that said, we want to thank you for being a donor for 10 years to our organization. Do you know how that makes a donor feel? Wow, 10 years. I love this organization. That's why I do it. And they are recognizing me as a long-term donor. Okay. Also,
I'd love to see that letter also share, because I've seen these as well, Dan. It's funny you said this. I've seen one and it wasn't 10 years, but it was a different amount. And it was a similar letter. And then it said, here's what we've been able to do in the last 5 years because of donors like you. And They shared it. They said this, we built a new building. We've been able to provide these 2 new programs. You know, that's a really big part of impact. I'm going to just interject a couple of questions on this particular policy that you have. Okay. So there's a couple here. One, a lot of people echoing the piece about like first-time donors matter. I'm just going to tell you that even low levels, because donors through the years who gave a little end up being donors who can give a lot, and it depends how they were treated when they first came, right? So that's important. And then there was a question here about the IRS policy. I've got my own thought on it, but it says, what if the donor gave $250 or more and specifically stated they do not want a receipt? Must we still send one due to the IRS? I typically think if the IRS says you must, you probably should issue one somehow, but I'd love to hear your thoughts on that, Diana.
You know, the only reason they need it is if they are going to take it as a tax deduction. And if they don't want the letter, if somebody tells me I don't want it, don't send it. Don't send it. I don't care what the IRS says, because charitable giving and tax deductions are between that person and their accountant. Yeah. And so if I were you, I would honor the donor. Of course, I tend not to honor the IRS anyway. So what can I say?
So that's Diana's official content. I would tell you one, confer with your actual attorneys and accountants, right? But I would also tell you this. Here's what's great about that. At the very least, you should have the ability to issue that, because that person may come back at tax time and want a receipt. They should have something. And if you're using the right kind of system that you have it, it's not a problem. Right. So you want to just make sure you do that. Another question that came up was related to the donor recognition policy. And I found this interesting because it came up a couple of times. I'm not sure if it's from different people, but does this policy go on your website?
No.
Yeah.
No, I mean, I wouldn't put it on the website. You can, if you have some issues about transparency. If someone called me up as a development officer and said, I'd like to see it. The donor recognition policy is much more than this simple screen. I mean, I think my donor recognition policy may be 10 pages. Yeah. Okay. So this is just a piece of it that everyone needs to do. There's a whole lot more involved in that. And, you know, it's like monthly donors, in-kind donors that we haven't even talked about. There's a great story that I actually kept the article. I think it was in the Chronicle of Philanthropy years ago, but it was about a small hospital, and an older gentleman walked into the hospital carrying an old computer. And he said, I'd like to donate this old computer. And he was a very nice gentleman. So they kindly took the computer. They asked him if he'd like to have a tour. They took him on a tour, and then they didn't hear from him. They called him up to see how he was doing because he was so nice. And when he passed away, he left them $10 million. So you might want to keep track of your in-kind and also maybe have a way that you manage those in your donor recognition.
So we have another question, and I'm going to throw one in before that, which is, these are guidelines. I imagine this, I'm going to throw this out there, would maybe change based on your organization. Like there might be some organizations, depending on your size or where you're at, where a phone call from a board member is appropriate at $99 or 95 or 75,
Oh, yeah.
right? Yeah.
This is a sample.
Yeah.
Everybody has to figure out what works best for your organization. I will tell you that there's an organization that I have now been a donor to for years, that my first gift to them was $25. Hello, $25. I got a letter. I got a postcard handwritten by a board member. And then I got another card handwritten by the executive director asking me if I would like to come on a tour for my $25. And I am a donor of a lot more to this day. And it's been a number of years.
Here's an interesting thing that showed up in the chat box that's kind of interesting about these levels too. You really have to know your donors. I'm taking a phrase from your last session, Diana. You have to know your donors, right? But one of the things you need to know is you can't see things in a single view of that gift. You have to be thinking in context of everything. So the more information you have. So there's an example of someone here. They said, we have someone who donates $10 a week, which adds up to real money. If you're just looking at their gift and you're responding based on that gift, that's probably not accurate even to your own policy. So think about it in context, right?
Well, and one of the things that I hadn't said yet is that you, especially today, when we have so many donors doing recurring gifts. I mean, I'm one, my husband's one. We don't give the same things. And so you might need a separate donor recognition policy for recurring donors. Because like you said, I mean, $10 a week adds up. Even if it's $10 a month over a course of a few years, it adds up to a lot.
Yeah.
And so with those recurring donors, you're not only looking at what they do on a yearly basis, because I would do that more based upon a year as opposed to a single gift, and also longevity. Again, how many years of the, I mean, I've been giving my recurring gifts so long, I couldn't even tell you when I started.
Yeah. It's like my Netflix subscription, right? Forget it, right? So,
well, no, this is actually a good thing. I'm not sure about your Netflix.
Oh, you're right. Yes, it's an addiction. You know, I love this because I think right away I would say I could totally see how this becomes like you have your gift levels, and then you have a whole separate like row that is recurring givers. So
Right.
that could become something, because that behavior alone is a different type of support, and it just really contributes. So that's great.
Yeah.
We have a question here, Diana, on this, and then I'll move on. How do we recognize donors publicly in newsletters, for example, but still respect their concern for privacy?
Well, if you are recognizing people publicly, you are supposed to contact them and ask for permission. And I know that's a lot of work, but what many people do is when they send out the thank you, they will, put in a card, do we have permission to acknowledge you publicly? You've got to do different things, but that's really important.
And I'm
You
so,
should not list them publicly without their permission.
yeah. Yeah, and there are often ways to just share. We have gifts coming in that are not specifying where they're from. It's thank you. We've just received another X amount gift. There's no problem with that. We've got this. I'm going to pause for just a moment. I'm going to take my prerogative here to just stop for a second here, because we've got a couple of things I do want to share. So does anyone find value? You could share this in the chat, but I just love your thoughts, Stan, as well. Does anyone find value in gifting organizational branded trinkets? I've had experience with folks asking, what do we get for donating? So now I feel a letter and phone call is just maybe not enough. Is there value to something that you received in that respect, or how do people feel about that?
The current research is showing that donors don't want your stuff. They don't want your mugs. They don't want your t-shirts unless they're running in a 5K, and everybody who runs in a 5K wants the t-shirt. But don't send them stuff. They really don't want it. Some people do, and then figure out something that's simple. One of my favorite gifts was a bookmark. I mean, especially if you work with kids, let kids design bookmarks and you can easily, cheaply have them laminated and always tuck one of those into an envelope as a thank you. So if you really want to do something, that's, if you're literacy, if you deal with kids, there's lots of opportunities, but people just really, I mean, please don't send me another copy.
Yeah. Well, Diana, it's very analogous to the concern that people have, and a lot of the particular focus on what level of fundraising is actually going to the cause and to helping to support it, right? And we've had some comments that are pretty well echoing that people see that as money that could have been better spent towards the cause.
Right.
It's for the same reason that people oftentimes will want to cover processing fees. They'll say, of course I would. Why would I not want the maximum amount to go to why I did this? Last thing I'm going to share, because there's too many, we'll come back to this and I'll have a section and refer back to donor recognition. But when we were talking about recurring giving, I just love this idea. Someone talked about how when we set up the recurring giving, we asked them if we can provide them with an annual giving summary. And I love that idea of being able to share with someone who's a recurring giver, just what their total amount of their give was as through the year, as well as what that meant, right? So if you gave $10 a month and now all of a sudden your overall gift, ends up being $520, $10 a week, and it's $520. I hope I did my math right, Dan. I know you're a math teacher. $520 a year. Now you can say, by the way, just so that you realize, $520 a year helps pay for us to take care of one animal in this way, or one to provide this service for a child. That's powerful, right? That brings it home.
Yes.
So we're going to go ahead and move to the next slide to keep things moving. And keep asking those questions. We're going to lasso them at the end.
This, I mean, why should you do stewardship? Well, first of all, because it is the right thing. I mean, honestly, you need to thank your donors and you need to find those ways that resonate with them. So it's about doing the right thing. It's about expressing that gratitude, the appreciation. It also helps set the stage for the next ask. Because if that donor doesn't feel that they were thanked properly, and I'm going to use me again, because I'm great. I got this letter for a donation I made. I don't want you to see who it's from. This letter came to me 3 weeks. It took 3 weeks to get to me, not 72 hours. It does not have a salutation. It does have my husband's and my name and our address on it, but no salutation. It is not signed. Nobody signed this letter. So this is strictly a computer generated letter. It did tell me that it's going to help them change lives, but it would have been nice to know something like, well, as a result of donors like you, last year we were able to serve or help 500 families. But there's nothing in this letter. And the really sad part, number one, I will not give to them again. And I had been looking for a place to volunteer because I really need to do something. I've just got that desire, and because I haven't volunteered in a while, and I need to get back to that. And I thought this would be a great organization. And this whole thing fell apart. When I got this thank you, I could forgive them the 3 weeks, but I couldn't forgive them a really bad thank you letter. So they didn't motivate me to give again, didn't motivate me to increase my gift, didn't build a relationship, and I will not be further engaged. That's not what you want to happen. I mean, I am your typical donor, and the only problem is I'm a knowledgeable donor. And so, but I'm not the only one. If I was the only one, first time giving would not be 20% of donors repeating. Okay, that's about all I can say about that.
Yeah, so those are lots of whys. I'm just going to tell you, manners matter, right? I mean, you learned it when you were young, and people respond to it. And we all expect it. We may not always do it, but we always expect it, and we notice when someone is doing the right thing. So that's good.
Yeah.
What donors want? What do donors want?
This is one of those things that I don't know how often we can say this, I mean, Penelope Burke did the research back, I think her book came out in 2001 or two about donor-centered fundraising. And if you don't have the book, you should locate it. But this research has been done over and over again. Adrian Sargent from the Lilly School also did this research, and it always comes out the same. Donors want a prompt, personalized acknowledgement. This was neither prompt nor personalized. They want a confirmation that their gift has been put to use. Well, you couldn't confirm that to me. And especially the measurable results as to impact of gift. Okay. And do it before you ask for another gift. A very large, well-known nonprofit in my community, we sent them a gift during the pandemic. They sent me an ask for another gift before they sent me a thank you for the first gift. That shouldn't happen, not in anybody's organization. I don't care if you're the smallest organization on this call or you're the biggest. You've got to thank people properly, on time, personalized, measurable results. It hasn't changed. It hasn't changed in a long time. How do you say I love you? Well, first of all, you treat all donors, when you are thanking them, as if they're a prospect. Okay, because how would you treat a prospect? How would you treat someone you want to donate to your organization? So you want to make sure that you're treating them properly and always saying thank you. Phone calls, you can always have a board member or volunteer thankathon. You can do it quarterly. You can, I mean, these are important things. You should send a formal thank you letter. I had a development officer, and I know that the Arreva software and all the other out there, they will all, if you donate online, will kick out a thank you that goes immediately to the donor. That is not enough. That is not sufficient. I know postage is expensive. I know getting a new donor is much more expensive. So you really need to take the time to send out a formal thank you letter, a letter with a salutation, unlike my letter, a letter that is signed. Have your boss or whoever does the thank yous, or signing the thank you, put a PS on it. We really appreciate your donation. What if every first-time donor got a formal thank you with a handwritten note that said thank you? It's so easy. It is so easy to do. And especially software like the ExceedFurther makes that easy to do. You can do publication listings, but again, you need to have permission from the donor. If you are doing donor walls and a listing, again, you need permission. Those two items are right now kind of falling out of favor. But again, you need to know your donors and what their preferences are. So those are some of the ways that, the top three are more personal. And the more personal you can be, the better off you will be. Okay. I think we've got a more coming up on the next slide. Site visits that, not every organization can do this, but if you're able to have a donor come to your site and actually see what you're doing, years ago, I worked for a behavioral health organization, and I had a donor, and I took them on a site visit. In one of the rooms, we had artwork up that was done by children who had multiple personalities. And because we provided therapy. Well, the donor looked at that and was so shocked by what they saw that, they were able to see the kinds of work we were really doing to helping kids who really did have serious problems. You can also do program updates. All of you have the capability of sending out emails to your donors. And it could be just a half a page email that says, want to let you know what's happened with this program that you support. And being able to send that out. So just a quick update. Hey, this is what we're doing. This is what's happening. Want you to know because you're one of our special donors. And donor giving circles. I still like donor giving circles. They're kind of falling out of favor. These things ebb and flow. I mean, I remember when nobody did donor giving circles, and then everybody was doing them, and now they're kind of falling by the wayside. But your organization needs to know its donors and what they like, what interests them. You can always sit down with a handful of donors at different levels and just ask them. That's probably the easiest way. Donor recognition events. I think combining these with volunteer recognition is a good thing. Then people see how many people are involved. You can also do VIP events. I love VIP events. Breakfasts are great because it's bagels, coffee, and orange juice. I mean, that's simple. And your donors want it to be simple. They're not expecting a lavish breakfast, but it's an opportunity with VIP events, whether it's a breakfast or dessert and coffee at someone's home, where you have a speaker. It could be the executive director. It could be one of your program people. It could be a client who wants to say how the organization impacted their lives. And VIP events are wonderful. They're small. They have a more intimacy. You get to know people. They get to know you. I just think they're the greatest thing you could possibly do. And also personal stewardship meetings. Actually going out and sitting down with a donor and talking to them. One of the things that we're always afraid to ask a donor at any level is, why did you give to us? Wow, that's a powerful question. But you have to listen to the answer. I did this with a donor years and years ago. She had been a monthly donor for 7 years. And when I started with the organization, I asked everybody, I said, why? Does anybody know this woman? Nobody knew her. Nobody even realized that she had been giving for 7 years. And I called her up and asked her why. And I was blown away by her answer. So it said a lot. And anyway.
Much has been written on the topic of just listen when it comes to all kinds of areas, right? Similar to listen to your customers. And I always just say there's great lessons to be learned. There's lessons to learn what not to do as well from for-profit business, but for nonprofits, there's lots to learn in terms of if you take that same kind of care, the more you listen to your customers, think of how you respond as a customer who has truly been listened to. It's incredible. I'm going to, before we move to this, I have the next slide up, so we keep moving through the content. You feel free to take a look at that, but there are a couple of questions that are coming up. I just want to kind of address real quickly. One, there's been a lot of questions about the software that was kind of mentioned, et cetera. And so that we keep with the content, there's actually going to be a section where one of the things you can do for donor stewardship is to get the right software and at least be aware of it. So I'll be sharing that. But so that that software, and I think it's been shared in the chat, is called ExceedFurther. It's Arreva's all-in-one digital fundraising, donor relationship management, and auction software. So that's great. There are some questions here. So again, there'll be more on that later. And we'll also give you a chance to have your individual session if you'd like to learn more. Very non-salesy kind of approach. There are some things here where people kind of ask things about that or echo things regarding the second thank you, but then you have people who are saying, what do you recommend for a larger organization? I'm going to paraphrase here and just say, come on, Diana, we have 23,000 new donors a year. How do we possibly hand sign?
The question I would ask you is, it's tough. I'm afraid that there's probably a lot of organizations on this call that would say, quit crying in your beer. You got 22,000 new donors every year. So you may not get a lot of sympathy from a lot of people. I hate to be the one to bring that.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah.
Diana, we just got an awesome answer from the audience.
Oh, what was it?
Get 23,000 volunteers. Get your volunteers to hand sign your letters if needed. It's worth it. That's all I'm going to say. I get it.
Because one of the things that they need to do is go back 2, 3, 4, 5 years and see how many of those donors, those first-time donors, they are retaining. So if your retention rate is over 50%, I'm going to tell you, hallelujah, keep doing something. You're doing something right. Okay. But if it's not, then why aren't you keeping? I mean, most people would just absolutely love to have your problem.
Yeah, and again, I don't want to dismiss the person who shared that. We want to hear everything here. I think there's ways to do that, and you all have to decide what's most important to you. These are recommendations. I'm going to tell you that you have to decide where it's appropriate to do that. And the other thing that you want to do is that you want to make sure that everything you're doing has a personal feel to it. There's our differences between notifications, thank yous that come out that are just auto-generated, and sometimes there might be something that's there and then added on to. But a thank you letter that is typed or that is put together and doesn't have a signature or it's sent out still can have a very personal feel. The more you know your donors, the better you can reflect that. So I'm going to keep us moving forward and just be honest to my moderator part of the role, Diana, and just let's hit the thank you. There's way more questions than I can get to. We'll get back to this.
I've noticed some of them, and it's just a little quite overwhelming.
So we will answer them. I don't have the ability to share the chat, but feel free to go up and copy that as you have it or note these. We will definitely make sure if there's anything that's here to cover these on our subsequent sessions and try to answer as many as possible. We also typically reach out to each person afterwards if they're open to it. Or if they've extended the note that they want to have us contact them just to get some more information, and we can share with you some more information there. So go ahead, Diana, we're on the thank you letter.
The thank you letter, I think I've hit some of these things, but I think timely, we do say that the response should go out, the thank you letter should go out within 48 to 72 hours of receiving the gift. It's the reality is somebody who's receiving hundreds of these a day, it's not easy. But for most organizations, because it's computerized, you're not doing that without software. So getting them out timely, it really needs to become part of the process of what you do in your development office. That it needs to be, saying thank you needs to be as important as asking for the money. So you've got to make both of them important. And the other things I think that were already up on the slide were, thanking them for their generosity, state the dollar amount, the tax deductible amount, talk about impact. Impact. How is that money going to be used? And make it personal. Please don't do what these people did to me.
Yeah.
Okay.
So who does the thanking?
Well, the thank you, look, we all know they're going to be generated, but I think that any of these people on this list can be the person who signs it, because that's what the thank you really means, is who's going to sign the letter. And I think that it's just whoever can do it. Now, the organizations I work for, I kind of trained my executive directors to sign, and most of them wanted to. They wanted to see those letters and I had one boss who was he was incredible. And he tried to put a personal note on, he hand wrote a personal note on almost every thank you. I mean, that was like stellar. Everybody should have a boss like that. So these are the folks who are going to actually sign.
I saw something that came up. I think it's Marcy Laurent. She shared it out to everyone, and just I would plug her organization if I saw it here, but I don't. It's just, I think it's awesome. It just reminds me of the party planning committee, but form a gratitude committee. You know, I mean, form a gratitude committee. It could be volunteers. It could be people who just really love to be at that point, right? They love to be able to thank those people because it's so meaningful to them as well, and take advantage of that.
Yeah. Donor giving circles. I put this in there because they still have meaning to a lot of people, and it's a nice way to recognize donors. I think if you make donor giving circles educational, so it's not just about the money, but it's about people getting together, having an educational program, something that's social, that helps engage them in the organization. So if you look at it from that point of view, not just the dollar amount, and you can have donor giving circles at every level of giving. You don't have to just have it for the big guys, you know, but make it educational. That's where your value will be, is if you invite them to come to something where they can have coffee and dessert and learn more about what the organization is doing. That's important.
Yeah. So what do you mean about naming?
By naming, the names you give them. I mean, whether you call them.
Oh, how you label the,
Yeah,
okay,
yeah.
yeah.
I
Okay,
mean,
make it fun, yeah.
Yeah, and you know, it can be, I mean, I worked for a botanical garden, and our top, you know, donor group was the saguaro. Well, it's the biggest cactus out there, kids, you know, so.
Yeah. Speaking of cactuses, I love when I have a good segue handed to me. So Marcy Laurent, who I promised to give a plug to, is in your neck of the desert. She is at the Mission of Mercy in Arizona.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, absolutely. And then there's a question, just real quick before I forget. You know, where was the MasterCard article that you printed out published? Do you know?
I'm sorry.
The MasterCard and recurring giving thing that you printed out. Where was that published? Does it say at the top? Otherwise, it's pretty. You could do a Google search.
It was in Nonprofit Pro.
Okay. Oh well, yeah, absolutely. Great publication that we're often in.
And
So,
they
yeah.
usually, an article like this, they will run it a series of times, so it won't just show up that one time.
You can typically find it there too, just by searching on the site. And while you're there, there's a great article from David Blyer, our CEO, on the future ahead here this fall. Be sure to read it. Came out yesterday as far as plugs. Here we go to donor recognition event. What type of event is appropriate for your organization? Is the first question.
And,
so how's
and
this?
again, I mean, I never did donor recognition events. I know a lot of organizations do. And I mean, I've attended some, but I never personally did one. But I think that you have to have an event that's appropriate for the organization. You know, keep it low key, again, keep it educational, keep it with a sense of gratitude. And also, if you have a group of donors in a room, one of the things you really, really, really want to do is engage them in understanding what their gifts did. So I think having a client be able to talk or have a presentation. I mean, many of us have been to those types of things, and they are, you know, they're super. Who should attend? Absolutely any donor. And you might even want to invite previous donors who have maybe become, you know, lapsed donors. It's an opportunity to bring them back. But again, I wouldn't use a fancy ballroom. If you could do it on site, that would be wonderful. But again, keep it simple, because some people don't really like them.
I'm just going to let everyone know here as we're approaching 3. We typically will run over because there's lots of great contact. The whole recording gets sent out, but please do stay along. There's some special opportunity for questions, and we'll continue to recognize throughout. If you're able to stay, we want to have you join us here. We're going to keep moving through the content here,
Okay.
and then get to some questions, because this is an enormous attendance here and lots of great questions. So we want to serve you in the best way we can.
Okay. And I'll try to give fewer stories and talk less. But a personal stewardship meeting is when you, as a executive director or the development officer, sets up a meeting and sits down with that donor. And to me, the number one goal of any stewardship meeting is, well, actually, there's 2 goals. One is to say thank you. Absolutely say thank you. And the second is to find out why they support you. That why is so critical. Donor selection. Personally, I think it could be your brand new $10 a week or $10 a month donor that has just joined your roles as a donor. So it could be anybody. It's not just about your major gifts. It's also about that other donor who, gave $100, and the next time they gave 1,000, and the next time they gave 3 million. There is a real donor who did that. So who goes on the stewardship call? Man, this is such a great opportunity to take a board member. They don't really have to do anything except explain to the donor why they're on the board. They don't have to give numbers and statistics and the things that they're not asking for money. They're just there to say thank you. So it's a really, really great time to have that conversation. Discovery questions, learn about them, learn about what's important to them, not just giving to you, but what's important to them in their lives. And so I think that is where you begin. And also, what do you leave behind? If you have a case for support, leave it behind. If you have a financial statement that talks about the project they support, so they can actually see that, that's important. Okay.
An impact statement as well, right? Showing something that just shows, like, an infographic or something. Those are great things to have as well.
Right.
Yeah.
Infographics are wonderful if your staff is talented enough to figure out how to do one.
Tip 2, you can, all nonprofits, unless this has changed, can go to Canva and get a complimentary pro level subscription to Canva, which is, everyone's familiar with that graphic software, and it has templates with infographics you can plug and play. And then, put that into whatever solutions you're using, and putting it out on your channels. So tracking everything.
Absolutely. I think the word everything says it all, especially when you go on those donor stewardship calls, or if you're making phone calls to donors, make sure your volunteers are capturing information so that you can get it back into your CRM. And that is really, really critical. And making any notes, that's how you get to know your donors, is by having conversations and keeping that information and keeping it in such a format that everyone who needs to can access it.
Okay, and let me move here to the next one. Excuse me.
Non-individual donors. This is anybody who's not a person. You again need to keep good information, and also have a donor recognition plan for corporations and foundations. How do you manage those 2 groups? How do you engage them? That is different from what you do with individual donors. Because corporations often do in kind. How are you managing that? And again, having a VIP event where executives from the corporations or foundations are invited, so they can learn more. You're not asking them for money again. Okay. You just want to have them learn. You know, the one thing stewardship, that communication, it needs to always include education. How do you educate your donors? Okay. To implement, excuse me, I'm starting to lose my voice. These are kind of things that we've talked about, but to implement your program, first of all, you have to have accurate donor information. You know, whether you're sending out that thank you or sending them a brochure or doing a phone-a-thon, you want information to be accurate. And as I said earlier, you want to treat all donors like their prospects with the same respect and kindness, and don't ignore them. Provide value. You know, that return on investment with donors really has to do with letting them know how their money was used. That's the return. Don't tell me we will help provide hygiene and hope to people. Okay. Tell me we're going to provide this to 500 people, or last year we did this and we hope to surpass that this year. Give them a solid number that they can understand. Not a lot of numbers.
Yeah.
Let them know impact.
Yeah.
Get to know your donors, and have a plan to connect with them, whether it's VIP events or site tours, you know, whatever you can do. Donors want to be part of your community. So you need to give them that sense of belonging.
Well, okay, so if I remember right, this is pretty immediate on Maslow's hierarchy of needs, a need to belong. And you know, that you're going to play to that, and it's important, right? And we all know what that's like. I'm going to tell you, don't go anywhere if you're here. The vast majority of everyone who was here stayed. Thank you so much. That tells me this is valuable. Thank you, Diana. I want to thank you for what you shared. We're going to have a robust, although somewhat abbreviated question session. I'm going to share with you a little bit about some of the technology you can use here quickly, and then we'll jump to that. But first, I want to give proper shout out here to Diana V. Hoyt. She is the fundraising expert, consultant, and trainer. She's the author of Securing Fundraising Success and Formula for Fundraising. I always say the subtitle, Embracing Your Donors for Greater Success, but that tells you the subtitle means something. So they're wonderful books, and they are great resources, and we've been covering them in our fundraising workshops. We're going to be having another one coming up. We're just finalizing the topics. A lot of it's based on what you share. So I'm going to invite you now in the chat box to say what other topics are near and dear to you that you would love to hear us talk about, whether they're in the book or not. They're tied to things that are there, and we'll talk about those. Because Diana, I'm just going to tell you this because she won't. Diana knows everything, or just about everything there is to know. No. She knows the most important everything, which is that to never say you know everything, because you're always learning. So I'll cover myself there, but she knows lots. And so we can share this with you, and our team is here to help. So please check that out. Her number is there. For God's sake, she has her number right here. So reach out and give her a call, drop her a note if there's something you'd like to connect about. She does a lot of things in terms of trying to work with organizations to do a beta of something she's trying out, because she is always learning and growing. So I really admire that. So don't go anywhere. We're going to be here, and they're just ahead. And let's hear from you on questions you have. Put those in there, and we will make sure to come around to as many as we can. So I'm just going to do a little bit here of this is provided to you by, but this isn't really a sales pitch. It's telling you how you can use technology. There's lots of great solutions out there. We think there's a real benefit. No, there is, in fact, to an all-in-one approach. So that's what we're talking about. Arreva has been serving the nonprofit industry for more than 30 years. I have to update that soon. It's been decades, and we've been working with thousands and thousands of clients across lots of national organizations, independent organizations, across just about every sector. And our primary product, I'm just going to tell you here, it is ExceedFurther, which is the only all-in-one cloud-based, fully integrated and automated digital fundraising, donor relationship management, healthcare hospitality, and auction software, in the industry. All of our applications, which we're going to cover here, Whether it's donations, recurring donations, all of those types of things. And I think I jumped ahead here. I just looking at my sheet here. Sorry. They automatically flow into a single unified donor relationship management database. So what that does is this is not the thank you that we're talking about. It automatically sends out a custom thank you acknowledgement and receipt to the donor, but it does more. It also captures all that information so that you can continue to thank and think about your donors. And it sends a notification automatically to you in the organization and to your entire staff about that specific donor and their transaction. So it triggers best practices like what Diana talked about, so that you're saying, great, I know the things I need to do, but I'm not going to forget. My reminder comes up, a notification comes directly to me and my staff, however we've set that. Again, all in one. I'm not going to run through all of these, but everything from all of the best practices, all of the capabilities that improve your donation capabilities and your yield are listed here. So we definitely share those as well. They're listed here across donor relationship management, digital fundraising, client services, and our auction software, and live virtual and hybrid event solutions. We do websites, custom donor-centric websites for ExceedFurther clients. And everything's mobile optimized and available on your phones. Similarly, with our MaestroSoft auction bidding and text-based solutions, read the article that Gabby on our team shared in the chat, and check out Nonprofit Pro, because we talk about how to really thrive with the blend of everything. A lot of it's done with our solutions. We're with you for good. We really are looking at that in terms of being able to provide you auctioneers, services, everything you need. And at this point, I'm going to actually, just as we get more questions from you, give you the opportunity to let us know whether you would like to have us contact you for a brief. And I'm going to ask someone on my, oh, it's up already. Okay, thank you. They're reading my mind. Free fundraising demo and consultation on anything you want to know about. Diana can tell you, she's known us for a long time. These are not sales pitches. These could be 5 minutes long. And they might be, I wanted to talk more about how I might do this or how I might do that, or what are people doing? We can share some live examples of what other nonprofit clients who've given us permission to share are doing, and let you know how to really be able to go further. Or they could be a full-on software demo of anything you want to see. It could be an hour, could be, they've gone much longer. It's totally up to you, but let us know, yes, no, maybe, no is really not at this time. You can always do that at some other point as well. In the meantime, while this is sitting up, and I'm gonna leave it up for just a little bit longer, if you want to ask about that, I can certainly have whoever talks with you address anything that you're wondering about on this as well. So let us know. And so let us know about questions you have. And I'm going to go ahead and move to the Q&A slide here. And I'm going to let you know this is the time where we do that. And I'm going to move back to the piece where we didn't cover it in case something comes up that I refer to. And I'm going to go ahead and start answering some questions, okay? So, or asking some questions, teeing them up. And they're in no particular order. They're whatever window I can get to right now. But I have one that came up that I've been looking at, and I'm going to answer it and you tell me what you think here, but it's, due to privacy of our donors, how do you guide volunteers signing receipts, letters, confidentiality? So I'm going to tell you a couple of things that I just know, and Diana has had experience in this too. But one, it might be as simple as just having them set up in wherever they're doing this, and basically not redacting all the information, but just having a list of, this is old school, having the letters stacked up and having something that just blocks the top of it, and having them lift up and lift up and lift up and sign. You could do that. You also, it's always a good idea if you have concerns about this and you want to address this as you're vetting volunteers, have them sign a simple NDA, a non-disclosure agreement, something, or confidentiality that you just make sure you have there. But I don't know if you have other thoughts on that, Diana.
If that is an issue, I would not have volunteers signing thank you letters. I mean, I just wouldn't. But that's a personal thing with me, because I think donor privacy is something that we really have to respect.
Yeah.
Yeah, it can get to be tricky.
Yeah. And so maybe in talking about that, that's where a gratitude may come in, where it's people on your staff, people on your team, or part of a committee within your organization.
Right.
Or a very select group. But you're right, like everything, and I don't want to give that knee-jerk answer, but everything really depends on your organization, your comfort level.
Absolutely.
Where you're at, right? But there's always ideas.
Yeah. And board members are probably they are volunteers, and they have a higher level of confidentiality than most volunteers. And so, it's a really tricky question. And I think one you have to be very careful of. It's how do you be personal and yet careful at the same time?
Why is a salutation so important to you? Is this generational? And before you answer that, Diana, is this generational salutation? I have thoughts on it. I'm going to tell you what's equally important is calling somebody what they want to be called and having a good, robust database and having information that you're gathering. If you have a preferred name or you know something about that person, and for example, I'm David, nobody calls me Dave. I mean, they do. I don't flip out, but I just don't. I respond to David. I tried to be Dave once in high school and no one went along with it. So I've always been David, and that's important, but it makes a difference. And I know other people say, for example, they're a Susan and someone calls them Sue and they've immediately created a rift, so you got to be careful. But do you have thoughts about the salutation comment?
Well, I'm sorry, writing a proper letter has a salutation. It's just that simple. It's if you're not going to do a letter correctly, like these folks did, then don't do it at all.
There are different standards when you're doing text versus thank you. So if you're going to go to that rolls up to, if you're going to go to the extent of trying to leverage the power of a traditional thank you, no, do it traditionally, do it the way that it should be.
One of the things that that we have to look at, and all of you can figure this out on your own, is we still know today that most of the charitable contributions are being made by boomers. They're over 50, many are over 60, and they still want a proper letter, period. If you know that most of your donors are in their 20s and 30s and 40s, then send them a text message thanking them. But they're not going to be the majority of your donors.
Well, and manners never go out of style, right?
Oh, really?
And to some extent, yeah. And they don't. That's what I tell my kids, right? But the other thing I'm going to tell you that I've heard, it's interesting you're talking about generations. There's just like fashions tend to come back, right? So if you're you're looking and saying, yeah, wow, this is what we wore in the 90s. This we're doing it. Everyone's doing it now. There are things that hit generations with even more impact. Sometimes because there's been a dearth of these things, having someone who is a new donor, that's maybe their first donation and they're younger and they're thanked with the salutation may very well have a much more positive impact than you anticipate. So it's something you have to understand what's important for you. But I'm going to go back through some additional questions. People, and this is the piece. Someone else just said salutations is truly important. I don't like friend or dear donor or dear partner. So personalization is an important part of that as well.
Mm-hmm. Yes.
And so that's an important piece. I'm getting a lot of people echoing this, so I feel like we may be hitting a chord. So, you never know. There's no one right way to do it, right? And so we don't debate here. All is good for good, right? So let's do that. There's people saying lots of great comments about this, about the article. I'm just going to tell you there were some questions. So I have to go up a ways here. Okay, so I missed Diana's information. Could someone please share? That will be in the full slides of everything we have, and that'll go out to you on the thank you and the recording that'll come out. How can you balance time in the field, networking and interacting with the community and documenting everything in Arreva? This is a huge struggle for me. Okay, so here's the thing. I'm just going to answer the piece. There's a question about balancing the piece, but documenting stuff within ExceedFurther, for example. One of the things that happens is what takes lots of time is not working with an all-in-one solution and grabbing your manila folders, multiple databases, post-it notes, having to go back and do an export import, right? So one of the things that really has served well is that you're having things that are all coming in to the database, and they are immediately flowing into the donor relationship database for you to be able to look at, deduplicating, and being able to make any corrections to, so everything comes in right, do it right the first time. But I'm going to throw the question to Diana. Any suggestions just in balancing your time between all of your demands in general? How, from your perspective with so much experience, what would you share?
It's hard. nobody ever said fundraising was easy. And I love people who think that it is, and they want to become fundraisers because they think, oh, well, this will be easy to do, right? And it's not. I think what I recommend is, oh wow, this is not going to be favorable, but you've got to decide how do you really want to raise money? And I know that money is with people. I mean, we know that 83%, when you add it all up and you look at Giving USA, 83% of all charitable dollars still come from people like me and you. And so you have to decide what is the best way for us to reach out to the people that support us, and take good care of them. If you took good care of the people who supported you and raise those donor retention rates, you wouldn't be making yourself so crazy. So I think the focus needs to be on, how do we keep first-time donors? How do we bring back lapsed donors? These were people who once cared about us. We want to bring them back. And if you focus on that and getting your donor retention numbers up, and quit spending so much time doing special events. And I am not opposed to special events. I think everybody should do one a year. Your signature event. It's a good PR vehicle, and hopefully it raises money. But spend time and figure out, how do I get to know these donors, whether it's by calling them and just maybe you set a goal that, I'm going to try to call 3 donors every day. That's 3 phone calls. And that alone will improve your fundraising, it being more personal.
Where do you see a role for, or do you see any role for personalized video? I have my thoughts on it, but what do you think about that?
If you're using it in the right place, some people actually use a very short video and send it out as an email, a 1-minute video thanking the donor, 2 or 3 minutes if you're going to get more into impact or have a client. People have short attention spans, so just calling or sending that video can be a nice way to do it.
I think I would agree with that. And I will tell you this, if you had asked me 3 years ago, 5 years ago, I would have said it's really hard to do them well. That's not the case anymore. You're seeing our faces on here, particularly after what we've all been through. There's so much more that you can do. You can use backgrounds, you can show them your location, you could do a video where you're thanking them with someone that is a constituent or what have you, right? And saying, hey, thank you so much. There's ways to do that. You need to know. We had lots of questions about certain things, right? Like I put out a thank you note, I hand sign it, and then I put a little sticker, a little emoji sticker with a smiley face. Is that okay?
Sure.
I imagine it's okay. I imagine it's even great. And it's people like fun, and your donors. If you have donors that somehow have an emoji allergy, or adversity, you're going to know that, right? But I think be who you are, be authentic, be genuine is the thing we keep hearing. There's questions here where someone asked this, and I'm going to just tee this up. Like I said, how often do organizations steward donors past first-time donor status because of a robust first-time donor acknowledgement plan and then lose them? And I don't know that there's direct amounts on that, but I would tell you, there's all kinds of ways. Even with a plan, you can still not do it well, right? Or you may not have the opportunity, but you're going to have more success than you don't. So if you are, doing it and then not staying consistent with it, that's important. And also, I would say you may look at this and maybe answer this, Diana, from like, how do you ensure that you get past that first acknowledgement and the hoopla around that first time acknowledgement and then don't continue it? How do you keep the momentum going?
I think you have to have a plan like anything else. We all understand that organizations are busy. The organizations that I give to consistently, I get it. I know how busy they are. I know their people. And but I think at least as you go into that second and third and fourth gift, just make sure you're maintaining the timeliness, the personalization, writing that little note at the bottom, and talking about impact. Just because you told them in the first thank you impact, things change. So if I'm up to year 3 of my giving, what is my money doing today? You know, so I think those are the things. You just maintain it. You may do a little bit, not quite as much. Nobody can maintain what you should do for a first-time donor.
Yeah. What about the donor only gives $25, but who has the capacity to give much more based on donor research screening? I'd like to do more for that person, like sending birthday and holiday cards as a way to cultivate the relationship, yet someone with less capacity wouldn't rise to the additional effort. But yeah, I'm sorry, yet someone with less capacity, so ignore the last piece, it's kind of whatever,
Okay.
redundant.
You know, if your donor research has shown that this $25 donor has a greater capacity, after that first gift, you want to have a conversation with them. Just call them. I mean, there really is an example of a gentleman who gave $100, got a thank you call, a few weeks later gave $1,000, received that thank you call, and a couple of years later gave $3 million. It's really happened. So if you have a donor with a lot of capacity, just be as personal as you can without being obnoxious.
Yeah.
Call them up and say, hey, we really appreciated your support. Have you ever come to our facility? Have you ever seen our programs? Can we send you any information? That's not hard.
Yeah. What about, so that you mentioned something with the phone call, right? So another question had come up, and I have a thought on this, but what about, what if you don't have a phone number for them, for the people who made the donation? How do you proceed?
Do you have an email?
Mhm.
Okay, you can email them.
Yeah.
If you don't have either one of those, which does happen, then make sure that that thank you you sent is a really good thank you. And, you know, one of the organizations I give to on a regular basis now followed up their thank you with a postcard that was handwritten by a board member saying how much they appreciated my being a new donor.
Yeah.
And that was, mine was a $25 gift, by the way.
Perfect example. So we're gonna there's so many questions here. I'm gonna try and go through these as well, but just we'll wrap up with a couple more. I'm gonna just invite everyone again in the chat box, in the question box, just put I'd like to hear about, and then tell us what it is, because that will help us think about future sessions and what's going to be really important. In fact, this one came out. We were looking at multiple pieces, but this exact topic was chosen because you would not believe how many things kept coming back to donor stewardship on our last session. Remember that, Diana?
Yeah. I just saw one of the questions and I want to respond to it real quickly. Is it's if you make those phone calls and you cannot reach the donor, that's okay. The important part is that you made the phone call, leave a message saying, just want to let you know, we received your check or your online donation or whatever it was, and we want to thank you. And we hope you have a beautiful day.
Yeah.
That's it.
Yeah. They're going to get the message, or someone's going to say we had a call from so-and-so if a person picked up. Right. So, so that's great. And you know, to that extent, again, it's I think the question came up, it's about thanking them. You're not calling back to combine that with an ask at this point, you know, so that's interesting. Okay, so there are a lot of questions here. There's some around legacy giving, and one was just saying, so how will you talk about how legacy society donors fit in these recognition charts? And then someone else just sort of threw out the suggestion of legacy giving surveys as well. So anything about legacy giving you want to share, Diana?
You know, legacy giving, it is one of your levels of giving, and they do need to be appreciated. There are organizations that will have a legacy donor get together, a VIP event. and all their legacy donors, everybody who's put the organization in their will comes, and sometimes they'll have a book that everybody signs. You know, that kind of seals the deal. You've put it in writing. And so make fun of it. You know, a legacy means that, hey, I know I'm going to die, but I want to help you when that day happens. And so make it a positive, fun event. It's a celebration. It's a celebration of life.
I'm just smiling because someone just ordered your new book, Diana. So, and it's such a modest cost on it that you can tell this is about sharing your knowledge. So thank you. Yeah, I really appreciate that. And again, that'll be on the topic. I'm going to start to bring this to a close here, and then just do some final words and thank yous. You know, again, and I'm just going to ask if our team could put up the opportunity to express interest in if you want to have a consultation or even a demo or whatever it is. We're happy to do that. And, you know, double up if you did, but if you already answered the previous, you don't need to. And then I'm going to just move it to, I've sort of been, you know, moving through these slides because we've had a lot of questions come up, but I'm just going to go ahead and move it to the end here and let you know that, you know, a little bit about Arreva. And I'm actually just going to give you this quick narrative. We're a trusted advisor, market leader of fundraising, donor relationship management, healthcare, hospitality, and auction software. We've been serving the nonprofit industry for much more than 3 decades. Our ExceedFurther all-in-one digital fundraising and donor relationship management software is like nothing else. I just put that in there. It's helping nonprofits worldwide further their mission, transform fundraising. We all really live and breathe that word right now, especially after the last couple of years, and cultivate relationships with donors and constituents. Our MaestroAuction Online, and MaestroAuction Virtual Live and Silent Auction software, text-to-bid virtual and mobile bidding software, and text-to-fund text-based donation software are all new ways of helping nonprofits raise billions of dollars. We help them further their causes with everything from live, virtual, and hybrid fundraising events to charity auctions, golf fundraisers, and galas. So whatever you're looking at, this session that we're inviting you to could be, how do I get started doing this? And we will help you. Okay, we will help you in any way we can, and we'll direct you to the resources. So please let us know. We like to say we're with you for good. And that doesn't mean we're following you around. It just means we're with you for social good. So thank you so much. I want to thank you for taking time out of your day, and I'm going to give the final word and thank yous to Diana.
Well, thank you, David. I truly have enjoyed this. I always like to hope that somebody has learned something and that I've been helpful. If you have any questions, please feel free to contact me through LinkedIn, my website. You can call or email me. I just want to help you as well.
Thank you, everyone. Have a wonderful rest of the week and weekend ahead. Stay safe and stay healthy. Thank you.
Goodbye.
Goodbye.